10, Inspire Your Audience from the Confident Communication Manual. The title of her speech is Magic, Miracles, and Resolution. Please help me welcome Sherry Wright.
Good evening. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. Those words were written in the book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Tonight I want to tell you a story of magic and miracles and a story of resolution. I want to tell you a story about Tiara, who was born in Zimbabwe. She was born in a very impoverished village. As a small child, she wanted to go to school, but it was not permitted for the girls. Her father would say over and over, education is what will end this poverty. Our boys must go to school. Our girls will marry. She was very frustrated with that, and she began to learn out of her older brother's books. She was a very bright young girl, and she learned very quickly, and she ended up helping her brother with his homework, and then she ended up doing the homework for him. The teacher realized the change in the brother's work, the quality of the work, and knew something was up. And when the teacher discovered that she was doing the homework, this little girl was doing the homework, the teacher went to the father and said, please, let her go to school. The father relented and did let her go to school, and she went to school for 2 terms, but then they married her. She was 11 years old. When Michael Jackson sang We Are the World, she was 12 years old. She had been married for 1 year at that time. He sang We Are the World, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. This little girl wanted an education, and she got a husband. She got a husband that beat her at 11 years of age. When she was 18 years old, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Heifer International, but one of the representatives from Heifer International was in this little village and was working with the women and the children in regard to poverty. The woman's name was Jo Luck. And she sat down with these little girls in a circle one day, and she talked to them, and she said, what are your dreams? Well, these little girls didn't know they could have dreams. She didn't know she could have a dream. She was now 18 years old and had 3 children and a husband who beat her. But she thought about that, and she thought about that, and she said, my dream is to go to school. I want to get a BS. And then I want to get a master's. And then I want to get a PhD. And I want to help end poverty in my village. And Jo Luck said, then you need to do that. You can do that. She went home and she talked to her mother. And she told her mother about talking about dreams and what her dream was. And the mother, not poo-pooing her, not saying, oh, that's ridiculous. The mother took her aside and she said, if you really, really want to do that, then you write that down. You write it down and you put it in something and you bury it. Because that will be your dream that no one else can find, and you keep that dream. Over a sequence of events, Jo Luck realized that this was a young woman with some potential, and she allowed her to do some work in the other villages. She began to work and made just little bits of money, took that money and took correspondence courses. Within 7 years, this young woman, with now 5 children, had enough credits and had gotten accepted at OSU in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State University. Well, this was monumental. The husband said, no way, you're not going, we're not going. Then he finally relented and he said, you can go if I can go with you. This was not a very nice man. The village worked together to help raise money. Heifer International helped raise some money, and she had a plane ticket, and she had admission to OSU. She moved to Stillwater with her 5 children and her husband from Zimbabwe, from an impoverished village, and she started school. This was not easy. She lived in a small trailer. She had to work several jobs. The husband did nothing because it was not a man's job to clean house or cook or take care of children. But he didn't work either. He did nothing. He was more and more frustrated at her accomplishments, and so he just beat her. That's what he did for her. And she continued to take these classes, and she got her bachelor's degree within 3 years. She then started her master's degree. At that time, the husband, his behavior had gotten out of control. She filed charges, and he was deported back to Zimbabwe for domestic violence. So here she was with 5 children, working on her master's, thankfully rid of the husband because he was no help. He was a hindrance. And she struggled because the money was running out, and the school came to her and said, "You're going to have to quit. Your tuition is way, way, way behind. You cannot continue." One of the people at the school at OSU recognized what was going on, and he enlisted the help of his church, the help of other school officials, and they did fundraisers, and they helped her raise money. And she did get her master's degree. She went on to the University of Michigan, and she got her PhD. This little girl from an impoverished village in Zimbabwe did all of those things. And she went back, which was just fascinating. Every time she completed a goal, when she received her bachelor's degree, she traveled back to her little village in Zimbabwe. She went out into the cattle pasture, over where the tree was, under which she had buried this tin of her goals. And she would dig it up, she opened it up, and she read it. And on the tin she had written, "As a woman without an education, life will continue to be a burden. I truly believe in these dreams, and I hope one day to work for the causes of women and children in poverty." And underneath that, I want my BS degree. I want my master's degree. I want my PhD. She had that BS degree. She dug up that little tin. She opened it up, and she checked off BS. She put it back in the tin. She buried it. She came back to the States and finished the master's program. After she finished her master's, again, she went back to Zimbabwe. She went back to the cattle pasture. She dug up that tin. She took it out. She read what she had written, and she looked down at master's, and she put a check. Folded up the paper, put it back in the tin, and buried it again. Came back to the United States, went to the University of Michigan, and got her PhD. In the meantime, the husband came back. He came back because he was sick. He had HIV. He was HIV positive. He was in full-blown AIDS. He was dying. She worked on her PhD and nursed him until he died. She did her dissertation in HIV and AIDS, specific to the impoverished villages in Africa. Today, she's working for Heifer International, and she is also planning at some point. She received that PhD in 2009, and I believe her goal was that in 2012 she was going back to Africa to work full-time to help with impoverished women and children, to bring education to them. She went home recently, and she and her mother met with a group of girls, and they sat in a circle, just like she had sat in a circle. And they talked about dreams, and they passed out a tin to each little girl, and they passed out a pencil and a piece of paper and said, "Write your dreams and keep them, bury them so no one can take them from you." Today, I would like to challenge all of us. This is the season of wonder and miracles. That's a wonder. That's a miracle. But it's also a season of resolution. We'll be writing resolutions in about 2 weeks. She wrote her resolution, and she made that happen. So I would challenge each of us with the tins that we have to take them home and put your dreams in that tin. And keep them there, and don't let anyone else know where it is or what they are unless they're going to help you realize them. Mr. President.